In this video, I want to talk about what are the financial consequences of the current coalition that most of the people are expecting, which is the AMPL coalition or the traffic light coalition. This is your SPD, the Greens, and FDP. Now, there are very conflicting ideas which these three parties are generally having. The SPD and the Greens are still on the same side. It is towards the left side of the entire political spectrum, whereas FDP is on the right side. And there are a few very interesting things happening which you should watch out for. To make it easier for you guys, I've already gone through all of the election programs and see what kind of ideas they're still pushing for. And I've summarized it in one single place which I can tell you about. The first thing that you can expect is higher regulation of cryptocurrency. Now you're already seeing that many countries are cracking down on cryptocurrency, whereas on the other hand, many others are completely legitimizing cryptocurrency. So this is going to be an interesting thing to see how this is going to develop in the future. But SPD says it very clearly in their election program that they reject any kind of privatization of currency. And this also includes the digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, and so on. So that is something you should keep in mind. I personally think there's going to be definitely more regulation there. The Greens, they want to have a digital euro. So digital euro is essentially controlled by the European Central Bank, and you can track all of the inflows and outflows with the help of this digital euro. Again, like not really the best thing if you're talking about freedom, individual liberty, and so on. The FDP wants cryptocurrency and they want to essentially promote it and also make it more accessible to more people. So this is how you see essentially like, you have these two parties, SPD and Greens on one side of the spectrum, and then you have FDP, which just want more innovation, more digitalization, and more individual freedom for people. The second thing you can expect is higher property prices. Now, why am I saying this is because if you take a look at many other left-wing places, essentially Berlin and some other cities, you will see that there's a heavy movement amongst people to essentially have cheaper apartments and stuff. There's this entire movement going on. So the argument of most of the people who are part of those demonstrations is that we want to get these apartments back from these bigger concerns and bigger companies directly back to the people. So they want to essentially snatch the apartments back, even though it is the property of those companies. It's called Enteignen in German. You can read up more about it. So that's an interesting thing, but the problem in that kind of scenario is that the German state is not just going to snatch the apartment from the builders. They will have to pay them a fair amount, and they can pay them the fair amount, but this will not result in any kind of extra development of buildings or apartments. But if the government, on the other hand, essentially subsidizes or promotes some other companies to build more apartments, to build more residential areas, then the problem will be solved better. Then you have a little bit of more supply, and more supply means essentially the prices can come down. But with the left-wing party, which are also having similar ideas of helping people to get the apartments and things like that, and paying for them by the taxpayer money, I do not think it is going to go into the direction which FDP is suggesting, which is essentially promoting real estate companies to build more houses, build more apartments, so that the problem of apartment shortages in Germany can be fixed. So this is the reason why you should keep in mind that in the next 4 years, most likely the apartment prices are going to rise even further. The third thing that you have to keep in mind is the benzene and diesel prices. They might increase rather heavily now because SPD and Greens, again, SPD is still a party of the common people. So they do not want to increase the day-to-day things which people are relying on. But because Greens is still in a pretty decent majority this time, so with them, they anyways want to push the agenda of e-mobility and climate change. So in those kind of areas, you can definitely expect the benzene and diesel prices essentially going up. I don't think FDP is going to have much influence there at all, because they can also select only a few themes on which they are going to talk to the government and build policies further. They cannot have a say in every single category of the government. The fourth thing that you can expect is EV subsidies. Now, this is something that the Greens are heavily talking about, and SPD has also mentioned it in the interviews here and there. They want to extend the Umweltbonus or the climate bonus. This is a discount which is given to you when you're buying an electric vehicle. The Greens are pushing for cycles, that you should be using cycles and so on. But I do not really believe that that is really going to pan out that well. But I think subsidies for e-vehicles could be something that you can expect. More infrastructure investment in e-vehicles is also something that you can expect in the next 4 years. The fifth thing that you can expect is lesser taxation of middle class and lower class people. This is an agenda on both SPD, Greens and FDP. So I think that this should pan out for the people who are, let's say, earning anywhere below 25,000 euros. This is a main concern for all of the parties. So like they want to definitely reduce the taxes there. FDP wants to reduce taxes in general. They also want to give you the option that in case you're buying some kind of things for your business, and these things are not very expensive. So instead of having to depreciate it over the years in your books, you can directly write it off. Right now, I think the limit is at around 800 euros. So for example, you buy a laptop for less than 800 euros or something, you can write it off in the same year. But if you're buying something more expensive, then you have to write it off generally in a duration of 3 years. It depends from article to article. But on the other hand, FDP also wants lesser taxation for the people who are earning a lot of money, and also want lesser taxation for companies. And I personally do not think that is going to pan out at all. Greens, on the other hand, they want taxation on the basis of nationality. So even if you can go to any country you want, you still have to pay taxes to the German state. Now, this is not going to pan out that well, just like this plan that they were having of the minimum 15% tax, the global tax that they were talking about. Again, there too, Hungary pulled back. You have Estonia, which did not agree, and Ireland, they also did not agree to sign it. Hungary is pretty nice, like you just have 9% corporate tax rate. So I think could also be an interesting place in case like, things go south or something. Right now in Romania, the actual tax rate, which they show in the books, is 16%, but you can have a separate type of company, which is called a micro company, where you just pay 1% tax. And this is exactly the kind of company that I'm also having. So it's very chilled out. You just have all of your income and you pay 1% tax on that. And you have to keep in mind that you do not have the provision to have any kind of business write-off or business expenses or something. So any money that you're making, you have to pay the taxes on the revenue. So if you have a lot of costs in your business, then maybe like this might not be the best type of company form that you might be thinking about. Then on the dividends, you just pay 5% taxes or something. But Romania, on the other hand, if you see for employees and stuff, it is really not nice because you're paying almost 45% in taxes if you're an employee, which is, not nice at all. So this is almost the Germany kind of scenario, and for not such a great quality of life. Sixth thing that I told you about is, of course, the taxation of rich people. I think that is definitely going to come. Both SPD and the Greens are for wealth tax. So you could imagine that happening in Germany for individuals who have high net worth. And from high net worth, I mean around like 1 million euros. But again, like this is not high. Like for many people, if you ask them, they would also say, okay, like, 1 million euros is not the same like having 100 million euros or something. So this is all very relative, and we will see how this pans out. The seventh thing that you can think about is the Solidaritätszuschlag, or the SOLI, not going away, because again, both Greens and the SPD are for it. FDP cannot do much alone. And the eighth thing that you have to also expect is the FINANZTRANSAKTIONSSTEUER, which is pretty much the favorite thing that Olaf Scholz has been talking about since so many years. And I'm 100% sure, I think like this is the one thing that I'm like absolutely sure of, that this is definitely going to be introduced in Germany in one shape or the other, because again, this has been a huge agenda for these political parties, and once it gets introduced, again, this becomes such a big win for them. FDP again is against Finanztransaktionssteuer, whereas Olaf Scholz and Annalena Baerbock, they are both like, really huge proponents of that. Finanztransaktionssteuer, to simply put, it is just pretty much paying VAT on the purchases that you're making in the financial industry too. For example, if you're buying some kind of stocks whatsoever, if you buy 1,000 euros worth of stocks, they expect you to pay 19% VAT on top of that. It is not going to be 19% right now. Right now, they're just saying it should be like, 1% or something like that. But it's all about like introducing the tax first. You introduce that tax, like once you introduce that tax, you have pretty much very high room to the top. So you can keep on increasing it year after year. And this is how essentially everything started. Like income tax also was supposed to be a one-time thing. That became a completely normal thing. VAT was supposed to be a one-time thing. That became a completely normal thing. And the same thing I expect with the Finanztransaktionssteuer. And this is also the reason I believe that along with having your stocks and ETFs and so on, I think you should really think about having some real estate too. Like you guys know, we already have a house on an island in Denmark, but yesterday I also have bought an apartment in Romania. So now we have 2 properties at the age of 26 and a stock portfolio which is around 150,000 euros. Again, for me, the things are completely different because the kind of revenues that I'm generating is very different from most of the people, and I'm completely aware of that. But still keeping in mind that this has to be your goal, that is like having some kind of stock investments and having some kind of property, that is very important, because with the kind of trend I'm seeing, I really believe that real estate is going to get more and more expensive also in Germany. So if you can manage to find a good deal, I think that is also not a bad option at all. Now think about investing in that too. If you have any kind of questions whatsoever, you can let me know in the comment section below. If you want to sit for a one-on-one appointment, you will also find the link for that in the description. I will see you in the next video. Bye.